Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over paper number 2 folder on Cobra, as well as the guidelines for how to write paper number 2 and the assignments that you will have to complete. So paper number 2, the folder is set up the very same way as paper number 1. This video will be listed right here, the link for it, and then here you have your guidelines document. And then underneath that, I have another document called Who is Trevor Noah and What is Apartheid? Now remember, for paper number 2, you are to read our book, Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. Okay, so that's what your topic will be over for paper number 2. On this document, Who is Trevor Noah and What is Apartheid? I have links to videos to help introduce you to Trevor Noah if you don't know who he is. He's the host of The Daily Show. He took over after Jon Stewart. And so these 4 videos, number 1 is his comedy before he started The Daily Show. And then these 3 are kind of behind the scenes things from The Daily Show. I've always enjoyed his perspective on things because he really kind of gets to the heart, to the meat of problems that are happening in America. So that's what these are. These are meant to give you a sense of who he is. And then the last 3 are videos about apartheid. If you don't know what apartheid is, it was South Africa's version, sort of what we did with Jim Crow laws here. And if you don't know what Jim Crow laws are, you really need to study up on that. The North won the Civil War. The South were told they could not enslave people anymore. However, that didn't mean that they just magically accepted everybody. And so what happened after the Civil War is they created laws that were still racially motivated against people of color. And unfortunately, we still are having the effects of those to this day. Alright, so there's your guidelines, there's who Trevor Noah is and what is apartheid, and then we have our 2 folders, the pre-writing assignments. So for this, what you're going to do with pre-writing assignments is you're going to read the book, and with each book there are going to be questions for each chapter. Usually when I teach this, I teach it in groups, so like here chapters 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 12, that sort of thing. But you'll need to go and read the entire book, and then there are questions here for each chapter. So I would suggest before you start a chapter, go read through these questions, and then as you see the questions come up in the book, answer the questions with the worksheet. And the questions do sort of go in order as they appear in the book, so hopefully that will help you. As you read the chapters, you're going to be writing a paper where you define what it means to be born a crime, as well as how apartheid affect Noah's life, how it affected his life, both of those. So your paper is arguing sort of 2 points from the book. And so as you read through this, if there's scenes, if there's stories, if there's really good quotes that you like, that's going to help you define in your own words what born a crime means and how apartheid had affected his life, then absolutely take notes on those. Okay, it's important that you take notes on that. And so that's our pre-writing assignments. These will be due in the Dropbox Friday, October 23rd. Okay, and then in our next folder, writing the paper, here the outline and the works cited page are both due before the chapter questions. I know that sounds a little confusing, but again, like we did with paper number 1, I need a couple of days to respond to those, because then that following week your rough draft will be due. Okay, so the outline and the works cited page, those are going to be due in the Dropbox Wednesday, October 21st. Okay, and then here in the writing the paper folder, I will have a link where I will go over the outline, and I'll go over the works cited page. The works cited page is actually it's going to be the easiest for this paper, because literally you have only one source that you need to worry about using, and that's the book. Okay, so in that video I actually create our works cited page for you. So just follow it along, do it, and you'll get your 10 points. It'll be easy. Okay, so that is everything up on Cobra. So remember, for this time, the questions, I'm giving you a couple of extra days to finish those up so you can earn those points. But the outline and works cited are both due on Wednesday, October 21st. So let's go ahead and take a look at the guidelines for this paper. So you've got to read the book Born a Crime, and you'll learn about Noah's life growing up in South Africa during apartheid. Each chapter gives a little mini lesson in the beginning of how apartheid affected people and how that in turn affected his own life. He wasn't considered black nor white. He was stuck somewhere where he wasn't really part of any group, and in turn he had to find his own niche in life and how to fit in with the other kids in society. So when we think of white and black and those kind of terms here, they were slightly different in South Africa. Okay, so take a look at that when you read through the book. So for this paper, you are required to answer, what does it mean to be born a crime, and how did apartheid affect Noah's life growing up? All right, so your introduction, you're going to fully explain who Trevor Noah is, some background information. Remember, if your reader doesn't know who he is, never read the book, this is your time to explain all that. So who is Trevor Noah? What's his current job? How most people know him from? And then explain that he wrote his book, include the title in italics. Explain what it was about and what apartheid was as well. And then your thesis statement at the end will be defining what you believe being born a crime is and how apartheid affected Trevor's life. And you might have a thesis statement that's just one sentence, or you can break that into 2 sentences. And so your body paragraphs, you're going to have 3 to 5 PIES paragraphs that help support your definition of being born a crime and how apartheid affected Trevor's life. Now, you can do that in a couple of different ways. You could have like the first 2 paragraphs be reasons of what it means to be born a crime, and then, examples from the book, and then the next 2 or 3 paragraphs you could, talk about how that affected, how apartheid and being born a crime affected Trevor's life. So you could do it that way, or you could just have 3 or 4 points of this is what it means to be born a crime, and then as examples in each, you're going to show how that apartheid and being born a crime affected Trevor's life. So it's up to you how you write that out. I don't really feel like you're going to have a counter argument with this paper. If you think you do, let me know and we can talk about it. But really, there isn't much here. So the only source that you're required to use is the book. Okay, but if you want to use a couple sources on your own, that's fine. No more than 2, and you have to get them approved by me. Now, some of you did not get approval on sources from the first paper. Okay, I won't allow you to do that again. Okay, you want to use a source, you've got to get it approved by me. So email me the links, and I will give you that approval. So just make sure that as you read through, you're pulling out examples, you're making notes, and make sure that every point goes back to supporting your main thesis statement of what does it mean to be born a crime and how it affected Trevor's life. And then make sure also that you put in your in-text citations and you have your works cited page. So for this paper, it's gonna be 1,400 words in length. Okay, your first paper was 1,000, so we're gonna bump it up to our next one, 14,000 words. That does not include the works cited or your title page. Okay, just your paragraphs. Typing guidelines, make sure you use font size 12 Times New Roman font type, and make sure it's double spaced. No page numbers are required. On the title page, make sure you center the title of your essay, paper number 2, Born a Crime, and the date. And that can all be in Times New Roman font size 14. Again, you want to avoid the you and the yours. Okay, be specific about who you're talking about. Okay, so ask yourself, okay, who am I referring to there? I's, me's, my, that's all okay. And then you're going to submit the rough draft and the final draft to the corresponding drop boxes. And then down below, here are the due dates with all the assignments. So here you have the questions for those chapters. Those are all due in the Dropbox before 11:59 Friday, October 23rd. But please remember, in the green, the outline and the works cited page, those are due before the questions, Wednesday, October 21st. Okay, your rough draft will be due the following week, Wednesday, October 28th, and then the final draft will be due Monday, November 2nd. All right, so that is the guidelines for paper number 2. So go ahead and as you read through the book, take a look at this document with the links to the videos, watch some of those videos, and then answer the questions as you go along. My thought is as you go along and you read through it, you finish a worksheet of questions, go ahead and get those submitted as soon as possible. And then don't forget, writing the paper, your outline and works cited, they're going to be due first, October 21st, but all the questions are due October 23rd. And then you've got the rough draft and the final draft. All right. If you guys have questions, you're confused on stuff, please let me know. Hopefully everybody found a copy of the book. Nobody said that they couldn't. I haven't been contacted about that. So please let me know if you have any questions, you run along where you're not understanding something in the book. Hey, come talk to me. We can do a Zoom meeting, a Teams meeting, whatever you like, and we can talk about it. I hope you're all doing well, you're staying safe, and I'll talk to you later.